Cool. That's awesome.
Paul, how are you?
Never comes and says hello to you, do they?
Good to see you. Some people do.
Yes. Yeah, I do have a 30 second.
Hey, Jody.
It's actually mostly builder expertise and contact list to NEACE. What's going on?
Big sigh of relief. I just found out 30 minutes ago that Title is sending our wire. It was touch and go. It was touch and go over the last 48 hours, whether it was going to fall through or not. Yeah. It was the buyer's lender was requesting more information and stuff at the last minute, and it's an investor. And so I just, like, all these scenarios started popping into my head, like, you know, like
option period,
or like he had to, like, I was thinking maybe like one of his other projects, like something happened and he had to whip out a credit card or something, and you know, and pay for like a $20,000 or $30,000 thing or whatever, and then the lender's like, nope, yeah. So
good stuff.
Hi, Alice. How are you?
I wanted to see if you are thinking you want to change the birthday slide again.
I will change it to the new Rotary year branding for July.
Could you just change that bottom bar?
Yeah.
Top is just balloons.
Right. Yeah.
So if you could just change that bottom,
Yeah.
that would make life so much easier, because all we have to do is switch that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't have to cut and paste every single picture every single month.
Gotcha. Yes. So the only thing we'd have to do is if there's any new people.
Well, I do that. Yeah,
right, yeah.
I do that. Take people out, put people in. But if I don't, I've now moved.
Yeah, I can just save. So I can take the ones that we had from this past year, and I can just I can save a new file with the new, banner and stuff on
Well,
it.
either.
And that way they'll still be individual files, and then that way if you need to add somebody, you can just go in and add the person.
Well, that'd be fine too,
Okay.
as I pass it off to John.
Okay.
But if it's only look for changes, and then switch out that banner, that's a lot easier.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
So either way, just send me a template with the new banner.
Okay.
Or whatever you want to do.
Yeah. I have in my head what.
Okay.
Yeah, the process. Yeah. So yeah, we'll get it done.
But yeah, we're going to need probably the week of July 17th.
Okay.
To work on August, because he's going to be out of town the end of July. So if whatever you do, if I can have it by the middle of July.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, we can make that happen.
It's about time to get started. I'm going to call on Sean. If Sean Foster will come and lead us in our invocation, that would be great. Let's all stand as we begin our service today. Sean?
I'm opening this in case we have any requests, any good. Any prayer requests that you'd like to express in public? Anybody?
Any update on Cindy Cummings? Any update on
Cindy Cummings, any update on Cindy?
Yeah, the update is that she's back in her regular apartment at CCI. Not in her house like she wants to be, but she's continuing with her physical therapy. She's writing about it, which I think is so all in all, I think she's
Okay, thank you. Let us pray. Father God, we come to you from all walks of life, all different denominations, and we just want to pause for a moment and recognize that you are the creator and we're not. And we definitely need wisdom. And we pray for our elected officials. We lift them up. We lift up our first responders. We lift up our educators, our people in government, our people in business. We lift up our sons and daughters and moms and dads and grandkids and Rotarians around the world. And we just pray that you will fill us with the willingness to follow the four-way test. And give us wisdom to love one another and to do it appropriately and respectfully and to the benefit of all concerned. Amen. Now please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the national anthem.
Oh, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, did prove through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. You may be seated. I'm wondering if anyone has anything that they're happy about that they'd like to put a few dollars in the few happy bucks in what Richard's carrying around there, and tell us what you're happy about. Nate?
Well, I'm happy because I spent a week in D.C. advocating for the vaccine injury, for which my father was one of them. And I have made it completely clear that there's alternatives. I want them to remove the mRNA and adenovirus platforms. And they're listening. I have an appointment with the NIH director and 4 members of Congress, including the Senate.
We'll get it done.
Philip has, we have someone over here.
Hello. I'm happy because last Friday I went to my first baseball game. I have not been Friday with the Rough Riders, so thank you, Rotary, for another first. Well, I'm happy that my daughter Sophia has joined us today. She just had hip surgery, so she's not going to rotate around and wave to everybody, but if you know, welcome her. And then I'm also happy for everyone who has paid their dues. And if you will pay by the 1st, so coming up, I'll be even happier next week. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I'm happy to announce that our own Michael Rainwater, which won't be bragging for himself, was selected Student of the Year by the Dallas County Dental Society. On top of that, everybody you might know his dad, Gary Rainwater, won this award 38 years ago. He's probably the only father-son duo to win one of the
Actually, I would just say ditto. I will go ahead and put in what I was going to say, which is a grandson turned 1. I know I'm late to the party, but I'm very happy to be here. And Reed and I both, obviously. And we got another one on the way, Labor Day. So there you go.
That's great. I have one for good.
Well, this is a happy day for grandmother. This is our grandson, Beck Bishop, from Shiner, Texas. You know about here? You don't know where that is? His father, Archbishop's our oldest son, and he's our family practitioner in Shiner. And we're so glad to have him out. And where did he go, Phil?
It's there.
He's an engineering major. So glad to have him. He's a Rotarian, don't you think?
I want to just express to you how happy I am that I have 1 more month left as president of this club. Happy. All right.
Jamie has one on the other end of the room when I'm done too. So I just found out about 30 minutes ago as I was setting up that the title company has sent the wire. We are funded on the sale of our house. It was touch and go the last 48 hours, so now I can take a deep breath.
We're excited our grandson is graduating tomorrow.
All right. Okay, now we have an introduction of guests. I know there are several here today, so Richard's going to take the microphone and get to you as well. Steve Waggoner.
My guests, please stand up. And would you all please hold your applause? I know there's going to be lots
I need you to all
of...
line up over here. No.
Hey, it's a big family. This is just part of it. But we have our son Easley Waggoner Jr., his wife Laura, Alicia Waggoner, my brother David, who happens to be Chip's dad, Wendy Waggoner, and I'll introduce Chip in a while. And my wife Jan is over here too, because I overbooked the head table and we couldn't sit there. What are you going to do? But anyway, welcome them, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have Joy Tapia with me today, and you've seen her before, and we're going to work on getting her in this club, the best club ever.
That's right.
I have today Natalie Stonewall, whose husband Tom was a member of this club for a long time, so I'm happy to have her here.
Anyone else? All right, thank you so much. Mark Deese, would you come and introduce our advertiser of the week? I like Lynn SURLS.
And I knew I was coming up here and probably with food. Our marketplace advertiser today is Lynn SURLS, representing Richardson Timbers. A complete timber milling company, Richardson Timbers was founded in 1949. They specialize in milling wood timbers and producing custom millwork products. They offer Douglas fir, kiln-dried fir, western red cedar, mixed hardwoods,
and specialty exotic timbers. Their services include finish, excuse me. Can you read the rest? Sorry. I was trying to talk with food in my mouth. Okay, where do I leave off? They're right there. They combine the craftsmanship of yesterday and 65 years of experience with the technology of today to produce products that are both bold and beautiful. Their lumber and building supply customers provide timbers from Richardson Timbers to builders who construct outstanding homes, buildings, and other structures across the United States. Their wealth of experience and extensive capacities allows us to be an important part of the supply chain. Contact LYNN SURLS for details on how they can help you. Please, let's join in thanking LYNN and Richardson Timbers for their continued support of our club. Let's give him a hand. I'd like to call on Richard Stanford if you'll come and talk to us about the legacy of leadership social. Pam's going to lead off.
Hello everyone. On Monday night, we are having a social for our Rotary Club. It is the Legacy of Leadership Group alumni, but everyone in Rotary and their guests are invited. We are meeting at 5:30 down by the CLYDE Park. The restaurant we are meeting in, we have a reservation for a room that will fit 30 people, and we're meeting at MIRIAM COCINA.
We've got 27 so far. We'd like to see 3 more. And the good news for everybody is it's not only a fun place to go, but we've raised enough money to pay more than you're paying to have this place. This is really a good spot. So I figure you're partially subsidized even when you're paying $30. So.
Yeah, and this includes drinks and appetizers. Everything is paid for. And when you get near the spot, the parking garage is right before the restaurant on a one-way street. So pull into the garage, valet it for free, then walk into the restaurant. We would love to see you Monday night, 5:30 to 7, MIRIAM COCINA.
And we've got 3 more spots is all that's left.
Go online and pay.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Bill, would you like to come and make your announcement as well? Gordon.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is time for our parade's Grand Marshal Luncheon. We're going to do it a little bit differently this year. Last year, I got complaints is we have too much food. So this year, we are going to just do a regular buffet. So we're going to be here. It's the same $20 or whatever the drinkers pay. I guess $5 or whatever that is. So you don't have to pre-register. You'll just come to the buffet. What we are asking you to do, however, is please come around 11:30. We need to get people through the buffet line, and we're going to be starting the program early because we have a very full program. So if you all will please come at 11:30, and we'll get people through the buffet line. All up here on the slide, we have a QR code. So remember, we are raising money for the North Texas Food Bank. You can get out your phone, snap that QR code, make a donation. If you make a donation today, it will be matched 3 times. So $1 equals 3 meals. So please take advantage of that. Our Grand Marshal is an interesting man. He is 89 years old. This will be his 50th Park Cities parade. He is the guy, if you've seen the parade, he's the one on the antique bike with the huge front wheel and the little tiny back wheel, and you wonder how can you possibly navigate that. But given his faithfulness to the parade, he is our Grand Marshal this year, because he said last year he's not doing this again on his high wheel. So he is our Grand Marshal. So I hope that all of you will come to honor him and his participation in the parade. Thank you.
50 years that high in the air. That is nuts. And he deserves to ride in some kind of a vehicle that is not two-wheel to go through the parade this year. That is great. I think, Sarah Ollier, you did a great job of encouraging people to pay before the end of this month, and that's my announcement today. I hope that you'll go online or give someone here a check, and not me, a check that represents the payment of your dues for this upcoming year. Thank you for doing that. I want to call on Kathy Wall. She's going to come up with our raffle right now.
Okay, I'm so excited that I get to have this young man, Chip Waggoner, who I watch every morning. He's fantastic. If you're not watching, you better start it. Okay, and we're up to
$2,300. So this is the lucky ticket, and this is kind of a lucky number in some ways because it ends in 1616. Last four, 1616. All right, please. What a deal for you. Now, that's right. This could be it, you guys. I just want you to know.
How big is the
getting
lot?
smaller and smaller.
And you have confirmed that there is a card.
We have confirmed that there actually is a dispute. Okay, Tom. After all, Tom, he is an attorney, so we have to keep that in mind. All right.
Every now and then there's a good one.
If Lee picks out the ace of spades, he gets half of that money. All right, Lee, pick out a card, any card. All right. Oh, right color. Eight of spades. So let's give the loser a really good hand. All right, well, we got that out of the way real well. Okay, now, Chip, I'm sorry, Lee Waggoner is going to come and introduce our guest speaker, Chip Waggoner. Chip, I'm sorry, yeah, there we go. Come on. I'm getting all my Waggoners mixed up, aren't I?
Hey, what you here? What we do? We can start a Rotary Club, didn't we know? Oh, Lord. So I walked by my oldest son, who I introduced earlier, and he just said, no pressure. But he also asked me beforehand, are we going to do any like a song or something so we can embarrass his cousin Chip? But no, we're not going to do that. In fact, I was, yeah, maybe we should. I was thinking about how to introduce Chip, and you know, in a way he doesn't need an introduction. But I was going to tell you guys that years ago, Easley and Chip played soccer together, and my brother David was the coach. And back at the time, they looked so much alike from behind that we couldn't tell them apart. We really couldn't. It was absolutely awesome. Now, Easley kept going, and I didn't, and Chip didn't either. But anyway, what are you going to do? But you know, we were at an event one time, and I won't say anymore. We were at an event, and this people kept coming up, and they said, "Oh, you're Chip Waggoner. Can I have your autograph?" And I'm kind of thinking, this is just my nephew. I mean, what are you doing with this? But apparently he's gotten sort of famous in this world at Fox 4 News. But he's written a book which touches, it touched my heart. I've read the book. I actually, yes, I teared up. I mean, it was very touching because it's about Wendy and Chip's son, Benjamin. So without any more, I'm just going to introduce Chip Waggoner. Let's give him a warm welcome.
The stuff he touched on, it does strike a nerve for me, and I am kind of emotional by nature. What my uncle and what my dad did in coaching our teams proved to be an invaluable experience for me, learning how to be a part of a team And these guys went way above and beyond to do this. My dad didn't know anything about soccer at all when he decided to become the coach. So he just completely dove into it, and he was, and my uncle were great. They're, what a tremendous team. So, and we were pretty good. We were pretty good. So, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. It is an absolute pleasure, and what I was going to be discussing today is a little bit about how I ended up at Fox 4, because what I had as my plans versus what actually happened were two vastly different things. So when I got out of college, I went to TCU. You know what I wanted to do for a living? That's right, I had absolutely no idea. So when I went in, I thought, you know, I think that I would be a good English history teacher, maybe coach baseball, stuff like that. I've had, you know, inkling for that. I have a desire for that. That would be great. So I signed up to be that. But when I was in college, took a class in radio, TV, film, and I was hooked. And started to think to myself, you know what? I can get into this because I've always been in front of people. I don't get nervous in front of people. I can maybe, yeah, I like sports, and I like what I'm learning here in the radio, TV, film department at TCU. You know what? I think what I'm going to do is hone my skills and become the next Eric Nadel. And I'm going to end up doing play-by-play for the Texas Rangers. That was my end-all, be-all, absolute, this is what's going to happen goal. So when I got out of college, do I take a job doing anything else in a bigger market, maybe in the television world or something like that? No. My first job is as a radio DJ, so I could gain experience out in Mount Pleasant, Texas, where I was an overnight DJ and just gaining experience, so I kept sending my resume tapes out. And it was an interesting experience, and within a few months, I got a job at the USA Radio Network. At the time, it was based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I was doing that and doing play-by-play for local high school sports. Rockwall, did some for Allen, stuff like that. And I kept plugging away, but I just really couldn't seem to get any traction. To the point where I was like, okay, you know what, God, I really don't know what you want me to do. So I'm just going to kind of get out of this business, and if you want me back in it, you'll just make it happen. And I took a job in the private sector, and about 6 to 8 months later, I got a call from a friend of mine who said, hey, there's this job at Fox 4 where you would be in a helicopter and you would be flying around covering breaking news stories. You'd be the reporter, you would run the camera, you would have a tape deck to edit on, and you would also be the engineer, which, by the way, were all the things that I studied in college. I was a production major, not a performance major. I feel like you're either naturally blessed to do that or not. And I decided just throw my hat into the ring. Really did not expect anything to happen with the whole thing, because my experience in the television world was extremely limited to what I did as an intern at one of the local affiliates and some stuff that I did at college. But one thing led to another, and the next thing you know, I'm down to the final 10 people. And then I was down to the final 3 people. And that was the time when they took us all up in the helicopter, and I'm like, I've never been in a helicopter before. I really don't. But what the heck, you know, let's just do this. This will be fun. Took off in the helicopter, flew around for a couple hours. I guess I was answering the questions that they were throwing at me the right kind of way, and we just kept conversing, talking, watched them do a little breaking news story of a fire, and then we went back to the heliport at Love Field. We pulled up into a hover, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense. We got to wait for the air traffic controllers to let us into the airspace, just like anything else. And the next thing I know, the helicopter's facing skyward, and then it drops like a rock, straight down at the ground. And at about 50 to 75 feet away, the pilot starts to pull up on the collective, and he lands the helicopter and just kind of out of a feather. And they look back at me and they go, "You okay?" And I went, "Yeah." "What are you doing?" And they were floored at my response of just absolutely cold, nothing, no emotion, no nothing. And they said, why didn't you like freak out or something? And I said, well, you're the helicopter pilot, and I figured, you know what you're doing. If I'm just screaming and yelling, I don't see how that could help anything. And so I was just trusting that you would get us to the ground safely. And that, I think, ended up actually being the one thing that ended up giving me the opportunity. That and all of my play-by-play experience allowed me to learn how to craft and paint pictures with my words verbally, so when they would listen to the tapes that I did when I was doing some of the impromptu stuff that they asked for, it just stood out. The news director just couldn't get away from it. And they finally said, you know what, we're going to give you this job. And they gave me the opportunity to be up there in the helicopter. My first report was absolutely horrendous, and I thought after the first one, they are never going to allow me into the helicopter again. But for some reason, they did allow me in the next day, and I just kept getting it better and better. And the next thing you know, it's 12, 13 years later, and I've just started to put together some great things. It was nowhere near what I thought I was going to be doing at all. No way, in any way, shape, or form did I ever think I would become an airborne reporter and end up winning Emmy Awards because of my work up in the helicopter covering breaking news stories like the Hurricane Rita bus fire or things along those lines. But that's what ended up happening, and it's been a great run. Which leads us to 2007, and in the summer of 2007, we ended up having an unforeseen thing happen that was a little crazy, and if you ever want to look it up, you can look up Fox 4 helicopter crash, and you can see all about that one day where I ended up having to call my wife from the bottom area of the floodplain that is north of Joe Pool Lake to tell her that I was okay from a crash that we were involved in. And again, it's something where you weren't ready for that, totally unforeseen. And you aren't necessarily sure how to necessarily handle something like that till you're in it. But once we were in it, I think I handled it pretty well. And it was just something that then forced me to change in my career again. Because about a year after the helicopter crash, they did away with the helicopters, and I had to go and learn how to build maps and do my job from the studio. And I kept doing it from the studio from that point on. It was just a wonderful experience trying to work with that whole idea and that concept of who moved my cheese, right? People can understand that. While all of that is going on in my professional career, there was also something going on in our personal life. And in our personal life, in the early part of 2000, my wife and I got the great news that we were going to be parents for the first time. Really exciting. And about the first trimester, we found out that there were going to be some challenges. About 2 weeks before he was born, we found out that these challenges were going to be extremely difficult to handle. And it's another example and another story of how you were expecting one thing and something completely different that you weren't expecting happens. And in this case, I had the opportunity to go through it with the support of a lot of people that helped us through it. Not just my family, they were huge, but my church family, my professional family, all of them pulling together and helping us maneuver through all of the challenges that we ended up ultimately facing. And it finally led to, 20 some odd years later, me doing something else that I never would have possibly thought that I would ever do in 1 gazillion years, and that's write a book about it. And the book is called The MIP, Discovering the Wonder of God's Perfect Plan in Our Lives. And it's been a wonderful experience to be able to go through in conceptualizing and taking what we experienced and putting it to paper. And I think it's a testament to everything that we went through. So, to kind of sum up, because I really want to leave as much time available for questions because I would rather meet you guys where you're at, and answer stuff that you want to know about me, my career, and all that kind of stuff with the following thing. So yeah, I work for Fox 4. There are a couple of things that I never, that are kind of funny that I never thought I would ever see. Number one is I've been made into a cartoon at Fox 4. I've been emojified, as you can see there. So that's something I never would have thought would happen. I've been bobbleized. I actually have at my house, and I should have brought it with me, my bobblehead doll. Here recently, I've been turned into, a version of Ken, which is kind of scary on a lot of levels there. But in any case, yeah. So this is a look at the book, and it's been really neat to see all of that just come to fruition and how all of those pieces have just come together. And again, it just all harkens back to when things go crazy and when things go wrong. What's your rock? What is your foundation? What are you going to rely on? And this points to what I believe is the best foundation that you could possibly have in our story. So, without any further ado, thank you for letting me drone on for a few minutes. The floor is yours. Any questions? Yes, sir. Okay, what do I do now? The question was, what do I do now? And I still am at Fox 4. So if you turn on Good Day Monday morning, you're going to see me on the air doing my job. What caused the helicopter to crash was the second part of the question. And I'm not a mechanic, but the way that it was explained to me is that you have compressors that's regulating the amount of fuel and oxygen going into the engine. And all of that had been replaced, and it's very rarely replaced, about a month and a half earlier. And one of those pieces, made out of a milled piece of metal, had some internal cracks in it. No one could have seen, no one could have known. And it's never happened in the history of a Bell helicopter. This thing gave way while we were flying. And when that gets sucked through the engine, metal going through an engine, it made the whole thing blow up. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being no big deal, 10 being a bad situation that you can't survive, they ended up putting it around an 8.9. Helicopter ended up landing, and in my mind, has anybody ever been in a car crash? Have you ever had like a slow motion experience as a result of that car crash? So mine's a slow motion experience. It just happened to be with a helicopter. And the whole thing to me, as we hit the ground, we start bouncing around. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is awful. And I thought for sure that we had gone a couple hundred yards or so before we ultimately ended up on our side. And in reality, it turns out it was only about 40 feet. So it's really wild how your brain remembers stuff like that. Happy to say that all the people in the helicopter did survive it, which was a testament to the pilot who did a great job with a whole bunch of things that were against him in trying to land this helicopter when it was disabled like that. To get it into neutral, to then do the auto rotation procedure and at least give us some kind of a shot to create a ground effect and land, though he was pretty unsuccessful in it just because of a lot of factors that were beyond his control, is still amazing because we still ended up walking away from it. So that's what ended up happening in the helicopter experience. And again, all the footage is out there. Never good when the reporter becomes the news instead of reporting on the news. Yes, Uncle Ethan.
You're a miracle in progress, young Benjamin. I know about him. A lot of folks here don't. He was born with spina bifida. I'd like to hear more about your experience with him, and I would also like you to touch on his Eagle project, which happened to be Camp John Mark, the board of which you and I are both on. But that Eagle project, why don't you describe what he did and how that even came about?
Okay. First of all, my son was born with a lot of different challenges. They call it all kind of lumped together as coachial extrophy. If you ask 100 doctors, I would say the vast majority of them would not even know what that terminology means. and it's kind of like something on your computer, like a file, and then when you click on it, the subheading comes out, it goes. That's kind of what it's like for him. So rare form of spina bifida, lots of other challenges, several surgeries throughout his lifetime. And he is a kid who has every reason to be mad at life, mad at God, mad at his condition. And yet, I think everybody here that knows him, that's here on these tables, will attest to, this kid is a beaming light. He gets joy out of just about everything. 99% of the time. Sure, there's maybe 1% of the time where he has something happen, he gets frustrated, mad. Who doesn't, right? But that overall aura that he has is otherworldly, and it's absolutely amazing. And so to get the opportunity to write a story about him, and it's just been an honor, an absolute honor, not only to write the book, but obviously to raise him. So when Benjamin was about 11, he said he wanted to be a scout. Before I even continue with the story, I want to tell you one thing. When we knew that there were going to be some really big challenges before he was born, one of the doctors that was a specialist took me under his wing, showed me what we were going to be going up against so that I would be ready mentally to handle all of the craziness that was about to ensue at the birth process. And he said these words, which were so huge. He said, remember that the way your child is going to be born is going to be his normal. He won't know what it's like to be you. He won't know what it's like to run like you, to walk like you, to do things that you do. So don't put him in a box and let him figure it out. So now fast forward to the Eagle story. At 11 years old, he says, I want to try scouting. And my whole being went, what? Are you crazy? You can't do that. And then I had to kind of just pull myself together. Remember, don't put him in a box. And I didn't. And I said, okay, let's go check it out, see what's up there. And he goes to his first meeting, decides he wants to start doing it. I say, okay. We start figuring out a way after that, and the scouts there at Troop 890 over in the Lake Highlands area, they were awesome. They said, if he has the desire to become an Eagle Scout, we'll figure out a way. And they did do some things that were adaptive considerations. For example, him running 2 miles in his condition wasn't going to happen. But what we could do is we could sit there and set up a course that went around our block. And he would use his crutches to go around the block. And he would keep working on it and improving his time and getting stronger. And that was what that whole exercise was all about as far as that merit badge was concerned. And so that ended up working out, and we ended up doing that. One of the most amazing things, though, was the way that he somehow achieved the swimming badge with no use really of his legs, and they didn't give him any help on that front in adaptations. And some of the things he had to pull off, which included going down to the bottom of the pool, picking up an object and getting it up. Think about trying to do that without the use of your legs and only one arm. And somehow he pulled that off. Absolutely incredible. But anyway, when he was early in his scouting experience, he already told me, hey, I know what I'm going to do for my Eagle Scout project. And what he wanted to do is build a Frisbee golf course at Camp John Mark, which he had been going to in the summers. If you don't know about that place, it is an amazing place down in Meridian. And what they do is use their campsite to partner with other hospitals here in the area, whether it's Children's Hospital, Scottish Rite, Cook's over in Fort Worth. And if you had a group of kids with a certain condition, let's say that they were all kids that were burn victims, 1 week out of the year, they're all at this camp, where the kids get to find out, I'm not alone, and here are some things that I can learn to help cope with those kind of situations. And the next week it might be all kids with sickle cell. Same kind of thing. Kids that are cancer, dealing with cancer. Reverse Benjamin, kids with spina bifida. and he wanted to give back by building the Frisbee golf course. He turned it in, and they said, no, Benjamin, this is way too much stuff. You want to actually raise funds and then get all the equipment and then install this. No, that's way too much. He insisted. They finally reluctantly signed off. And not only did he end up raising all the funds for it, he ended up with such a surplus that I think as of right now there's a separate fund at Camp John Mark that still has the funds in it so that when things go bad, like Frisbees or whatever, they can go and order more and they never have to worry about that kind of stuff. He was able to put in the best kind of baskets, and here it is, about close to 10 years after he put it in, and everything still looks like it's pretty much brand new. And that was what he decided to do, and it's really neat that he was able to parlay all of what he did in his experiences with camping at Camp John Mark, with scouting, and then put it together to give back in that way. So, yeah, great question. Thanks.
And what's he doing now?
What is he doing now? Great question. He is a Baylor graduate, graduated 2 years ago, and he is working for a company called Genpact. He is an account manager for them, and he has been there for about a little over a year and a half, and has really done well in this first job. Is it something he wants to do long term? I don't think so. He wants to kind of get into more of the production end of things. Right now he's working with those companies that are trying to, in the world of Snapchat and the like, be better and more effective in the ways that they reach out and use those platforms, and he helps hone their targets and how to do that better. But I think he would long-term want to be doing the production work of all. That's what he's doing now. He's really loving it. Yes, sir? Not on. Okay. I'm on the air on Fox 4 from 4 a.m. to 10 a.m., which leads to a question, of course, which is what time do I get up? Yeah, my alarm goes off at 2:30 in the morning every day. So that would be the worst part about my job. What time do I go to bed is one of the more common things that are asked me, and the answer really is, what time should I go to bed? I should go to bed around 7. I've learned to kind of get by on about 4 to 5 hours a night. To me, it's all about the REM cycle and when you get up. My dad cringes at that, but that's just what I do to try to handle it. And I really don't think I have any brain damage whatsoever as a soldier. But 4 to 10 on that. How does Benjamin get around? At first, he didn't have to do much. And he was able to kind of learn how to walk, and he had some AFO braces that would help give him the foundation. But the older he gets, the less flexible he's become. So he's had a couple of hip surgeries. That's kind of limited what he can do. So right now, he has a wheelchair to get around quickly. He's very adept at that. And then otherwise, he uses his crutches to basically pogo around. So he stretches out the crutches and then pulls both of his legs together at the same time, and that's how he maneuvers around. He's really good at it. Really good at it. Jack. Oh, how about getting around town? Hang on to that real quick. That's a good one, Dad. So because he can't use his legs like normal people would, driving a car seems to be kind of, well, wait, how can he do that? Because he has a car. And the answer is that we have a company install hand controls. And so these adaptive service companies do a great job in meeting people where they're at. So he actually runs everything by hand. So he has his gas, brake, and then on the steering column, they inserted a knob, kind of like what you would see on a bus steering wheel, at knobs. When you're making a big turn, you can kind of get leverage and turn that way. And that's what he has on his steering column. And that's how he gets out and about. I've never gotten a ticket that I know of. Hadn't been in a crash. So, well, no, he was in that fender bender. That wasn't his fault. Anyway, moving on. Now, Jack, the floor is yours.
I've got a son with special needs, so I thank you for your story. I also have a son with an Eagle Scout. We talked about him as well. I have a question about your industry.
Okay.
you've been in the industry now for, it looks like, over 20 years.
28 plus, it'll be 29
plus.
in
You may have seen an evolution in your industry from being balanced reporting to not so balanced
Okay, we're
reporting.
gonna go there, okay?
And I would ask you, do you see that we may ever get back to balanced reporting? And I'm not playing politics here, I'm just asking from the reporter's standpoint. Do you think we may ever get back to balanced reporting?
I sure hope and pray that we can, because that's where you're going to have the most progress being made. The hope is that, at Fox actually, our hope is that we try to present things as, here's this, you decide. And that really is truly what we're trying to accomplish. I know that it has a right leaning on the National Front perception, but when it comes at least to what we're doing locally, I can only control, or we can only, as a news unit, control what we do locally. And all I can tell you is, I feel like it's this, you decide. One of the really difficult stories right now, in particular, that comes to mind, is how there's been this politicalization, if you will, of an unfortunate series of events that occurred up in McKinney, where a young man was killed. And what really truly needs to happen in this situation is let this all come out in the courts, period. Not what we're seeing in social media and what we've been trying to do locally at our station and with some of the reporters, which I just cannot say enough about. Sean Rabb, Stephen Dial, they have been really good at just trying to separate the wheat from the chaff of all the junk that's flying around and say, this is actually what's really going on this part of it. This is what's really going on in this part of it. And stop everything else. Because it's not about anything else other than this is a tragic incident. Let it all go out. So, I feel like it's possible, and I'm hopeful that it can, once again, get that way. But social media is definitely a problem there, where you have unvetted sources and things just popping off nonstop 24/7 that aren't accountable for anything. And those are the things I would probably say are what you need to just completely ignore.
Hey Chip, thanks a ton for doing what you're doing. Could you tell us how the book came about and how long it took you to write, and kind of give us some insight?
Sure, yeah. So I felt a tugging in my soul to write a book about Benjamin fairly early on, just because of the unique set of circumstances that had occurred. And one of the people that was a parent at the elementary school that he was at kind of reinforced that whole idea. But at the same time, there's this huge fear element where it's like, I know I'm in the media world, but when you're talking about writing a book versus what I do on TV, it's like water skiing versus snow skiing. It's just two vastly different things. I don't know anything about it, and I kind of came up with every excuse in the book to not do it. He was too young. If this book comes out while he's a kid, it could kind of like, I don't know, taint the waters for him and making friendships as he moves on through school and stuff like that. All kinds of excuses. But finally, when he was 18, I said, I've been feeling this tug about doing this. And Benjamin said, that is your story. And if you're feeling like God's calling you to do it, you need to do it. And so I started the process really in earnest then. And then I just would go back to some of the stuff that I had made diary entries for. I had a dictaphone kind of cassette tape. Younger people were like, what? Cassette tape? What is that? That I would use, and I went back to those, and they still were in decent shape, so I could listen to those and kind of transpose those. And then I would just kind of hone those concepts into what became the chapters, and then the chapters became everything else. And I actually finished the book about 2 years ago, but the biggest thing that I was running into was actually finding a publisher that understood the assignment. And finally, I did come across somebody about 7-8 months ago, and once that happened, the process kind of took off. I ended up ultimately deciding to self-publish it with someone's assistance and bringing it to that stage. And that publisher, that's their primary focus, is taking a first-time author like me and getting it to the press. And I really appreciate her efforts, and it also, to me, is a win-win because I end up keeping all the rights to the book and everything else and can market and get it out there as I see fit. So that's how it kind of came about. It's definitely a long process, and I'm so thankful that it's finally out there. So anyway, and we have a few copies available if you guys are interested in it. Yes? Okay.
Since this is about Benjamin, you mentioned skiing just moments ago. So I remember a story in the book about Benjamin learning how to ski. How in the world did that have happened? Explain that one to us.
Yeah, so credit my wife 100% for that one. When Benjamin was in junior high, my wife Wendy, who's here, said, hey, let's look into skiing and let's see if we can get into an adaptive skiing program. We went up to Winter Park, which is the birthplace of adaptive skiing, started the process. And he got on what's called a bi-ski to start with, which is basically 2 skis put together on top of a glorified toboggan, and he learned how to ski. It happened pretty fast. So for about 2 years, we did that on spring breaks, and then by the 3rd, 4th year, we started doing what's called a mono-ski. I don't know if we can do an improv here or not. Is there any way that it would be easy for me to plug in and show this video? No?
No,
Probably
unfortunately.
Not.
Sorry.
Kind of too bad.
That's how media goes.
I know. But basically, I wasn't ready for the question. This is basically what it looks like. And you can see that he is skiing along on this mono ski, and he's just zipping right along. Who would have ever thought, of all things, that skiing would be something that would turn everything upside down and give him that opportunity to, do something really cool. But yeah, that's him. He's just plugging away, just doing his thing. And if you want to see the video later, I guess you can see it. I've got plenty of them. And now I'm getting a call from my favorite person, Spam Brisk. He is just But anyway, yeah, that's how that kind of came about. It was all due to my wife. And he was so good at it that actually one of the people at the National Center for the Disabled said if he was up here all the time, he could become a Paralympic downhill skier. He's that strong in his upper body, which was kind of a compliment. He really appreciated that. Yes?
I'm curious about one thing, a couple of things.
Okay.
First, is Fox 4 News locally owned?
Yes, it is.
It is. It's not owned by the network.
Right. So we have there are all, when I say that we're locally owned, it is owned and operated locally. It is under the corporate umbrella. So there's about 14, 15 Fox stations that are like that. So Fox Atlanta, Fox Philly, Fox Detroit are all examples.
Does the network exert any editorial control over you guys?
No, we run autonomously. They have no say in how we cover our region. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, they want how Dallas Fort Worth media. If y'all have lived here forever, it's just a different animal, and it's not going to be the same as what Fox Detroit is, and it's not going to be what Fox Houston is even. That's even more local. So yeah, they allow us that.
My last question, trying to think of how to phrase this and not be a real jerk.
Uh-oh.
It used to be.
Got it.
It used to be, of course, you've heard people say about Fox, if it bleeds, it leads. And I don't think you guys are that way anymore. Did you consciously try to get a balance between sensational and not so sensational news?
Is there a conscious choice? Absolutely. I mean, I don't know how else to say it other than that. We do want to be balanced in everything that we're trying to accomplish, whether it's in the political spectrum, whether it's in another spectrum, and it also has to do with all bad news, all good news. The overwhelming response over the years has been, gosh, if it bleeds, it leads, as you said, then I'm just totally turned off by that. I'm sick of seeing all the bad stuff. I don't want to see any good stuff anymore. So now, because we have more and more opportunities in how we're covering the news, I don't know if you haven't watched Fox recently. If you do watch the Fox channel, what you'll notice is on Fox 4, we have more and more hours that are dedicated to news. So 4 to 10, there are certain parts of it that is more focused toward the news. Then we start getting a little bit lighter here. Then we have this show that debuted back in October called The 10, and it is like it's not really a news-centric. It's more about just talking about topics, conversations that you would be having at the water cooler kind of a thing. So yeah, there has been a conscientious effort to try to be more authentic. Yeah, more authentic.
Well, let's give Chip a big round of applause. Thank you so much for being here. Our book is going to be placed in your name and your honor at the Jack Lowe Senior Elementary School.
Awesome.
For your speech here today, and thank you so much for coming. It's so good. Yes.
Nolan, I've got one last softball, Chip. He, unlike the rest of us, is wearing a tie. It happens to be a particular color in his jacket.
Oh, this was intentional. This was intentional. I knew that I was speaking at the Rotary Club today, and so I'm wearing your colors. I did do that on purpose.
Such a class act, you know. Just such a class act. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Let's see. All of my notes are elsewhere. Next week, what are we having next week? Let me go get the notes real quick. Grand Marshal. Yeah, how could I forget that? How could I forget that? That's what's happening next week, so you be sure to be here at what time? 11:30. That means I have to leave my office much earlier than I did today. And so let's all stand, and I want to ask Mary Bishop to come lead us in the four-way test.
Okay, I have, how many of you were scouts? Raise your hand. How many of you are scouts mothers? Raise your hands. How many of you were Eagle Scouts? Raise your hand. So, I think there's something about this scouting program that leads to Rotarians. I mean, I think we're all looking for a community in service. And also, you probably know this, but somebody told me years ago, when you do the Rotary test, the first two lines are "is it," and the three and four are "will it." And it's helpful when you say the Rotarian test. Okay, so of the things we
think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you so much. See you next week. Big day next week.
All right, you know, big celebration this weekend now that it's official.
Yes.
Feel like you need to.